Age with the MCIC series. This series is a month-long virtual conference opportunity hosted by the Department of Campus Climate. But as you saw in our presentation, we have a lot of other folks who have helped us along the way and who are continuing to assist us throughout the month of March and beyond. Soon, Kaden will link our community standards in our chat. I want to mention at this time, if you could please mute your microphone when you aren't speaking through the presentation. It helps reduce background noise and is just respectful for our presenters here today. We do have closed captioning available through all of our sessions through the MCIC conference. I believe that they should be going right now. Um, if you don't see them, there should be a button at the bottom of your screen that says CC. It is also potentially under the More button, and you can click View Subtitles. And the closed captioning should start to appear at the bottom of your screen. Please message Kaden or myself in the Zoom chat if you're having any difficulties. I also wanted to mention at this time that our closed captioning, the live captionings, are fairly accurate and up to date, but they have the most accuracy when you are able to speak slowly and clearly. So I just wanted to mention that as we get started today. Most of the sessions for our MCIC series are going to be recorded, and this is being recorded right now. We are doing that to ensure accessibility for those who cannot attend the live session here today, and also for those external to our campus so they can watch the recordings later. We are making our recordings available on our Campus Climate YouTube page. If you check back in about 3 business days, you'll be able to see this particular recording. So it takes a little time to edit the transcripts and also for Zoom to process the recordings, but we try to get them in as fast of a turnaround time as possible. One last thing I will say about recording is that for all of our sessions, we often deal with sensitive topics or perhaps personal experiences within said topic. If you would like to share something anonymously, myself and Kaden will be in the chat, but Sam is assisting with the chat specifically for this session. And if you privately message her, she can share any questions or perhaps experiences anonymously. Otherwise, our chat is public. So I just want to give you all that heads up before we get started. And like I said, if you do have any specific questions, you can message Kaden or myself in the chat. Our email is also being monitored throughout this session as well. But Sam specifically is helping this time kind of with questions and things like that. So please reach out to her first. And now I'd like to introduce our presenter for today. So Brenda Gomez-Solis is the Hispanic Outreach Specialist in the Office of Multicultural Student Affairs at the University of Wisconsin-Platteville. Today, Brenda will be facilitating an open dialogue about immigration in the United States over the past few years, centering specifically on DACA and ideas and opinions on how we can all help the cause of keeping dreamers here. Home is here is a very powerful slogan used by immigrants defending their rights to stay and live comfortably in the US. So I wanted to use something similar, but without taking away from home is here. America's Home will hopefully provide a sense of curiosity to bring individuals to the session to learn and discuss the importance of understanding why America is home to many immigrants. Participants will learn what DACA is, the requirements for DACA, and how to safely have a dialogue on immigration and the importance of understanding that for many of us, America is home because we know no other place. I will now turn it over to Brenda.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brenda. I go by she, her, hers pronouns. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate you all taking your lunch breaks to come to this session to learn a little bit more about why America is home. So first and foremost, I would like to go ahead and get started by talking a little bit more about why I chose this topic, or not this topic, this image, which as you can see says American grown with Mexican roots. I am Mexican. I was born in Mexico, but when I was 3 years old, I was brought to the US. So all I know is, America is home because all I know is America. I don't remember much about my time in Mexico before I was brought here, which is another reason why I decided that it would be a good idea to talk a little bit more about why America is home to me and invite another student. Her name is Perla, which is also here, and my colleague Samantha Lopez to talk about our individual stories about why America is our home, not just for us, but also for our families. So before I begin, I know Emily had a PowerPoint up where you could see some housekeeping items, which again, I want to mention some of the ones for this specific session, just because stories will be shared, I'm sure, that, we want to make sure that we all know that this is a safe space. I want to allow myself and the individuals who will be talking to be vulnerable in sharing their stories, thoughts, and opinions. But I also want you all that are present to be aware that, you might hear things that you wouldn't expect. So we would like for everything that obviously is said here to not be, talked about or anything. If you have any questions, go to the source and have your questions answered there. We will also have a space for questions at the end of the presentation. And learn, take the information as you will, but also be willing to have conversations and ask questions. As best as we can, we'll be providing answers and getting to all questions that are asked. So home is here is a phrase that's used by many undocumented individuals and their allies. This helps to raise awareness and raises the voices of many individuals who are afraid of speaking up or are afraid of, coming out and saying, I am undocumented. This is the help that I need. So individuals who for the most part live in the shadows and work day by day trying to get by. The phrase has been used in various movements fighting for the rights of all undocumented individuals. And like I mentioned in my excerpt, I wanted to make sure that I used or went back to home is here because that's where my idea of America is home for this presentation came from. But I also want to make sure that I don't take away from the actual home is here. So if you have any questions or just would like more information on home is here, you can find it at the website provided. So now I will be showing a video. This person talks about a reality that many individuals, specifically Americans, can't seem to grasp. It's now 2021 and somehow comments are still made, and we all have our opinions and they are valid, but before we speak, I always like to think that we should think before we actually make comments. So this individual is going to talk a little bit about how he's lived through immigration and his thoughts on it, and then we'll go into a little bit of a discussion on what your thoughts are, what my thoughts are, and then we'll continue from there. So it's not playing. Give me 1 second. Of course, we would have technical difficulties, right?
It's okay. It happens to all of us.
Unspeakable. What's up, everybody? My name is Ford Quarterman, and I'm not a politician. This video today isn't brought to you by a right or a left-leaning news anchor. I'm just a normal guy from small town conservative Georgia, and I lived a pretty normal life up until 2013 when I quit my job, and ever since then I've been traveling the world. So I backpacked around Latin America for a few years, and
we aren't seeing the video.
Sorry.
It's okay.
This is so weird. Okay, let me try that again.
Perfect. Yes.
What's up, everybody? My name is Ford Quarterman, and I'm not a politician. This video today isn't brought to you by a right or a left-leaning news anchor. I'm just a normal guy from small town conservative Georgia, and I lived a pretty normal life up until 2013 when I quit my job, and ever since then I've been traveling the world. So I backpacked around Latin America for a few years, and that was really cool. But I really wanted more freedom. I didn't want to depend on other people's schedules and timetables. So I decided to buy my own car and drive down the Pan American Highway. And ultimately, that timetable led to me spending the majority of the past 5 years south of the border. Y a mi gente latina que están viendo este video, espero que me permitan la oportunidad de hablarles a mis paisanos en inglés, porque quiero transmitirles un mensaje muy importante hoy. Now, keep in mind that this wasn't vacation. I wasn't staying in resorts and traveling with tour agencies. My goal was to get off the beaten path and submerge myself completely in these cultures, speak Spanish, meet locals, and see the real side of these countries. So when I see what's happening in my country regarding immigration and the Latino community, it really bothers me.
Hispanic Americans say they are fearful after the mass shooting in El Paso.
The two drowned attempting to cross the Rio Grande River.
A racist manifesto posted online before the shooting claimed, quote, "This attack is a response to the Hispanic invasion of Texas."
Because we have an invasion of drugs, invasion of gangs, invasion of people.
The media would have you believe that El Salvadorians and Hondurans are ruthless gang members looking to murder or extort you.
Not pleasant for MS-13. Get them the hell out of here, right? Get them out.
When I went to El Salvador, I didn't meet one MS-13 member. And when I went to Honduras, I got this gnarly parasite in my foot. It was disgusting. And it got so bad that one day this woman saw it and she offered to take care of me. So for the next week, she washed my feet like she was Jesus Christ himself, applied medicine and bandaged it up every single day with a smile on her face, and never once asked me for 1 cent. The media would have you believe that Cubans are anti-American communists, that they hate us.
But when I went to Cuba and traveled from one end of the island to the other for 6 weeks, every single time I met a Cuban and told them that I was from the United States, they gave me a hug. Cubans are people like Felipe, a guy I met in Trinidad, Cuba, who took me all day on a hiking tour to a waterfall, horseback riding. And when we got back to his house, he invited me into his house to sit down and eat with his family and meet his wife. Fed me a delicious meal. His floors were dirt. He had no floor. And his walls were 10 rusting walls that didn't even meet the ground. I had to throw money at him and run away so he would accept it. The media would have you believe that Colombians are like Pablo Escobar. They're not. They don't even like to mention his name. When you go to Colombia, you'll realize that it's a vibrant, revitalized place that has left that dark era in the past. The media would have you believe that Mexico is full of rapists and narcos and criminales.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists.
Mexico is a country full of smiling people ready to accept you with love and respect. In spite of having every single reason in the world to not like us because of the hurtful and hateful rhetoric, politics, and words of our president. I've spent over 3 years in Mexico, and the kindness of the Mexican people has changed my life. These stories are not rare or uncommon. If you talk to anyone who's traveled extensively through Latin America, I'm sure they'll tell you similar things. The truth is that Latinos, rich or poor, are the most loving, kind, and selfless people that I've ever met. Another thing that one realizes when they travel through Latin America is that most Latinos would never leave their countries to come to some far, strange away place. They would never leave their families and everything they know behind. Most Latinos are doing just fine. But the ones who do leave their countries and come north do so out of a place of desperation and need. They're looking to escape violence and insecurity and lack of employment. And much of this situation in Latin America, the United States has had a huge hand in creating. Now, don't tune me out now, okay? I am not anti-American. I love the United States. But driving my truck all the way down the Pan American Highway, I saw this firsthand. Let me share with you some of the things that I saw. So I lived and worked at a jungle lodge and cacao farm on the Caribbean coast of Costa Rica for a while. The owner there was a German guy who immigrated to Costa Rica in the 70s, and he began to explain to me the history of the United Fruit Company and the Banana Republics. He explained to me that throughout the 19th and 20th century, U.S. agents covertly came into Central America and began poisoning hundreds, if not thousands of acres of local farmers' crops, just to come back a few weeks later when all of their crops had died and their land was rendered useless and offer the local farmers peanuts for their massive plantations. So all the locals would move away. The new U.S. agents would burn everything to the ground and plant bananas as far as the eye could see. Later, when I drove my truck through countries like Honduras or Guatemala, I saw these plantations firsthand, and I would become accustomed to waiting for 10-minute trains, mile-long trains stacked full of bananas with Dole or Chiquita banana stamped on the side. Shoo, 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 shoo. Where out of the corner of my eye, local workers were slaving away in the sun, making surely a couple dollars. As I drove down further through Central America, through Nicaragua and Costa Rica and Panama, I began to notice how consistently all through Central America, it was very hard to find quality meat and cheese products in all the supermarkets. Despite these countries producing some of the best coffee beans on the planet, consistently restaurants gave me instant coffee mixed up with my breakfast. I began to realize it's because U.S. multinational corporations own all of this land, and if we don't, then we pay top dollar to import it to the United States. We pay more than local consumers pay for their own products produced in their own countries to always ensure that we have the best products on our dinner tables. And locals in Central America very rarely reap the benefits of living in some of the most fertile countries on earth. The North American Free Trade Agreement, when it was passed in the 90s, did you know that literally millions of corn farmers all throughout Mexico lost their job because they could no longer compete? I've literally been to towns in Mexico that don't have clean drinking water, but they got ice cold Coca-Colas in every fridge. Our wealth has come at the expense of the poverty of millions of Latinos, and we've done little to help these countries with those problems. We like to blame Mexico and blame Colombia for our drug problem, but we're the ones buying it all. There can be no supply without demand. And speaking of supply and demand, who's the one supplying them with all of the guns? Us. MS-13, that gang was started in Los Angeles, and Yeah, it was made up of El Salvadorian immigrants, but it's a total byproduct of U.S. gun and gang culture. So then we just conveniently decide to export that problem back to another country, so it's their problem now. The reality of the matter is that we, the United States, in a huge way have created the instability all throughout Latin America that has led to this immigration crisis. And these people, they go through terrible, unspeakable things on their way north. They sacrifice so much to come here. So a few weeks ago, I asked my followers who are undocumented immigrants in the United States to share with me their stories. So I'd like to share a few of those briefly with you. This woman from Honduras was beaten up multiple times by her husband when she was pregnant. Her husband worked in the drug trade, and the cops actually protected him. After receiving multiple more death threats, she had to escape, not just to protect her own life, but to protect the life of her newborn son. So she looked for a better future and came north. Here's a man from Veracruz, Mexico, who came north and left his 2-year-old daughter, his 5-year-old son, and his wife behind because they could not put food on the table. And he says that the hardest thing in his life is to be apart from the people that he loves. But he gives thanks to God that he has a job that allows him to provide for them. And he's been able to see his kids grow up from afar and give them the education and opportunities that he never had. This woman and her Honduran husband originally immigrated to the United States to escape crime and rampant kidnapping. And when they were here, her husband was arrested and falsely charged with drug possession, so the authorities could conveniently deport him back. But he had to be with his wife, so he crossed again. And when he did, he waited for 10 days in the desert, in the shade of a tree. With 4 other people, they had 1 can of tuna to share and a few tortillas and a little bit of water. But somehow, they waited 10 days until the coyote came to show them the way. This young girl left her entire family to immigrate to the United States. She swam across the Rio Grande because she wanted to continue her studies and help her mom out because her father died. She said the only thing she wants is to study and to work and become an educated person because it would be an honor to her mother. I want to ask you, do these people sound like they're worthy of discrimination and hate? Do these people deserve to have their families ripped apart?
Government, please put your heart. Let my parents be free with everybody else, please.
And their children put in detention centers for weeks or months at a time with horrible conditions? Do they not deserve the same opportunities that you and I have? A lot of people will say, well, it's not our responsibility to help them. I say it is. And I don't say that from an ultra-liberal open border standpoint. I say that from the standpoint that we in the United States are the richest country in the entire world. And given that we've made ourselves rich in many ways by taking the natural resources from these countries, specifically that these people are coming from, well, we have a huge responsibility to help. Whatever happened to Bible verses like 1 Peter 4:8, above all, love each other deeply because love covers a multitude of sins.
Okay.
Yes, I am a
Are you a United States citizen?
Can you please get away from me?
Then you should not be
Can you please get away from me?
What about John 15:12? My command is this, love each other as I have loved you.
Yeah. Go back to Mexico if you want to keep speaking Spanish. Go back to your Mexican tongue.
Remember Matthew 25:40? Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers or sisters of mine, you did for me.
I don't know why you hate us. Why do you hate us? Because we're Mexicans?
People are scared, right? And fear can be blinding. People think that immigrants come here to steal jobs and commit crimes and bring drugs and rob welfare. If they come here illegally, then clearly they don't respect the law. In the first place, stop saying that people seeking asylum are illegal. It's not illegal. It's legal to come here and ask and apply for asylum. The claim that immigrants steal jobs is also misleading. Immigrants do the jobs that citizens won't do. The next time you're in a restaurant, try walking back in the kitchen and telling me if the guy washing dishes back there is a white guy. Our economy needs the immigrant workforce. Industries like farming and construction would collapse overnight. In fact, over half of all hired farm hands in the United States are undocumented immigrants. Do you guys know how many billions of dollars of crops just rot away in the sun on farms all over the United States simply because there's not enough people hired to harvest them?
This is labor mostly done by Mexican immigrants. Farmers say many Americans don't want this kind of work, and that a decade of heightened border security and visa bureaucracy has cut into immigrant recruitment.
If anything, we need more immigrants. A lot of people claim that immigrants don't pay taxes and drain social services like welfare. But actually, official studies show that millions of undocumented immigrants do pay taxes with falsified Social Security cards. Stephen Goss, the chief actuary of the Social Security Administration, actually estimates that undocumented immigrants contribute billions of dollars to Social Security, resulting in a net positive flow on the system. Illegal immigrants get no benefits whatsoever except for emergency care Medicaid. Not to mention all of these immigrants spend literally billions of dollars a year, stimulating our economy even further. There's a big fear that immigrants commit a lot of crimes. Check out this graphic from a 14-year study between the years of 1990 and 2014 that the journal Criminology did that clearly shows that higher undocumented populations are correlated directly with lower violent crime rate. They have too much to lose. It's not worth it to them. They'd be deported straight back to their own problems. Take, for example, this message from one of my followers who says, even something as simple and basic and minor as a speeding ticket, undocumented people are scared of and they're trying to avoid. They would lose everything. It's really affected their confidence and freedom in everyday life. To all the people who think that undocumented immigrants are the drug traffickers and drug smugglers, check out this study that shows that 77% of convicted drug traffickers are U.S. citizens. That's because most illegal drugs come across our southern border through legal points of entry. They're not swimming across the river, hiking 10 days through the desert with backpacks full of cocaine. So what's the answer? I don't think a wall is the answer. I think that would be hugely expensive and highly ineffective. And I don't think more division between countries and people is a step in the right direction. I know that limiting and cutting back on asylum eligibility can't be a good thing either.
I've been saying you have to change the loopholes, you have to change asylum.
I believe a revamp of the system to allow for more working visas would be a great idea. Maybe we can even grant amnesty to undocumented immigrants who have been here for 5 years and they can prove that they have a clean record and have committed no crimes and they're contributing members of society. And then we can award them with residency and maybe even citizenship. We have to stop ripping apart families with these ICE raids. Do y'all have any idea how many anchor babies that were born here by undocumented parents born elsewhere are going to be left alone?
My dad didn't do nothing. He's not a criminal.
When all their parents have ever done is sacrifice everything to provide for them and put food on the table for them. Who will pay for them now? But ultimately, if we really want to fix the problem, we have to address the root cause of it, the insecurity and poverty in Latin America. The United States has to make it a foreign policy priority to help these Latin American countries with the organized crime networks. Maybe we can use financial sanctions or law enforcement agency cooperation and promote honest commerce. We can call Congress and local representatives and tell them that we don't approve of these ICE raids and the separations of families. We don't approve of these detention centers. We can report and document these arrests and raids as well. We can film. We can donate to humanitarian efforts and get involved with volunteer efforts. A few that come to mind are the Angry Tias and Abuelas in Texas, or No Immigrants, No Spice in California. Immigrants, undocumented or not, have rights that they're unaware of. So it's important to connect with these people with professionals that can help. I personally have connected with a law firm in Chicago called Consumer Law Group, Los Guardianes del Pueblo.
La noticia de que Inmigración nos mandó esto. A ver si gustas abrirlo, por favor. ¿Nos puedes compartir, por favor? Porque ahorita ella está en shock. ¿Qué es lo que acaba de recibir, Gandini? Mi residencia.
Every day, I hope to connect more people with them to help them in their immigration battle. And we can hold political candidates accountable. Here in 2020, we have a huge election. I'm not saying that everyone on the right are racists and bigots and supremacists, and I'm not saying everyone on the left are extreme socialists and anti-American snowflakes. Stop throwing these names around so casually. Things don't have to be so polarizing. Our differences make us better. Stop hating people who don't agree with you. Man, I'm from small town conservative Georgia. There's Trump flags flying everywhere out here. Y'all think I would come back here if everyone who supported Trump was a racist bigot? I honestly think that this is a problem that everyone in the United States suffers from. We suffer from our political and our educational system. How is it that our political system gives us two options, and two options only? Things aren't that simple. In our educational system, that's failed us all. We grow up being taught that we're the best in everything, and that doesn't incentivize us to go anywhere else. Why would we go to another country when it's a step down? Do y'all know what revisionism is? Revisionism is when the winners rewrite history. They only teach us about the good deeds that our country has done all throughout the world, when in reality, there's a lot of bad. Look, it's good to be patriotic, but not when that patriotism blinds you to flaws. Stop putting your allegiance to the flag over morality and empathy. The Cold War is over. It's not a us versus them world anymore. And stop referring to immigrants as them. They're not others. They're humans that deserve every single bit of comfort, happiness, and well-being that we deserve. Let's make America great again. Absolutely. But all of America. North, Central, and South. Let's help our American brothers and sisters and unite this continent in a way that this moment in time calls for. Let's not be on the wrong side of history. Thank you for your time.
Okay, so it has come to my attention that the video was very laggy. So I'll go ahead and talk a little bit about, what the overall gist of the video was. Ford Quarterman is an American. He's from a town in Georgia. Yay. He actually was talking about how the immigration system has failed undocumented individuals because there are many things that undocumented individuals do not know in terms of their rights that affects them on a daily basis. So towards the middle of the video, he was giving examples of a few different followers of his that he asked he asked his followers if they would be willing to share, their personal immigration stories. And he was talking about a few examples. So he talked about an example that was a woman who was being beaten by her husband, and her husband was being protected by the cops in their area of living. So she asked for asylum to come into the US. Excuse me. He also talked about this other person from Mexico who, had to leave his family behind, his wife and 2 kids, to be able to come to the US to be able to provide for them because he couldn't otherwise living in Mexico. So those are just some of the stories that, undocumented individuals live and go through. There's thousands and thousands more, but the whole gist of this video was to give you all an insight as into, the reality that many Americans won't accept. And it's that in order to continue and grow as a nation, we have to work together, and we can't work together if we're being pulled in different directions. And if we have obviously we are entitled to our own thoughts and opinions, but we also need to learn that in order to grow, we must learn. So that's the whole gist of the video. If you all have any questions, please feel free to send them to Sam or hold them until the end, and we'll talk a little bit more about them. Now I want to go into discussing a little bit more. So for the bits and pieces that you were able to see on the video, what are your initial thoughts? What, if anything, surprised you the most? What examples, whether they were provided in the video or not, have you personally seen happen or heard a similar story about? And then how can you become an ally for undocumented individuals, whether that be friends, faculty, staff, students, community members, Just in general, how can you become an ally for undocumented individuals? Feel free to unmute yourself and talk. This is, to be an open conversation, where if you want to question something, go for it. You're not going to be judged, but I do want us to make sure that we're able to have a conversation and a dialogue about this topic.
Well, one of the things that I'd like to throw in, and part of this is being the Dean of Business, Industry, Life Science, and of course, Agriculture, is the understanding that the immigrant workforce has been a major piece to agricultural productivity in the United States. And it's really across the board in regards to agriculture. And so obviously when you think of Wisconsin, you often think of the dairy state, right? And so when we look at immigrant workforce, that's also very important for the Wisconsin dairy industry, which is a $46 billion industry just in this state. So that really resonated with me. And though one of the things I found surprising, which I shouldn't have, is knowing all of that, I didn't realize that 53% of the agricultural workforce was immigrant workforce. And so that was a bit of a surprise, even though it shouldn't have been.
So the information that he did use in his video was based on a study that was from like 1990 to 2014. So that number may be a little bit different, but there is a huge number of individuals that do work in the agricultural field that are, undocumented. So just being able to keep that in mind even when working with the communities and stuff around the area here, especially because it's rural, is very important. Anyone else have any other thoughts, comments? Don't be shy.
I have a comment. So I know he mentioned, going back in the back of a restaurant and, you will see a Hispanic washing the dishes, Latino washing dishes. And it's crazy because when he said that, it kind of sparked conversations that I've had with my family members. And, those are like, that is the first job they got when they got here. My father was a dishwasher, my uncles were dishwashers. My mom might not have been a dishwasher, but she worked in the back. So like, it's crazy to think that, there are so many stories, but they're so similar to each other. And, I'm glad he's making that public knowledge. And a lot of us, do see those things. And I don't know, it wasn't surprising, but it was a little eye-opening to hear a little more about that.
Thank you, Perla. I could definitely agree with that. When I was younger, when I was in like third grade, we moved to this place in Georgia called Commerce. And my mom, my aunt, and a couple of my uncles worked at a restaurant in the back as well. I don't know for sure, like, if they were washing dishes or not, but they did work in the back. And it was Ryan's. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that restaurant chain. It's died down now, but the chicken was really good. And we would be able to keep the leftover chicken. They would bring it home for us, but it's still definitely good that he brought that up, because it's true. If you go to a restaurant, unless it's a high-end paying restaurant, you won't see white individuals or African American individuals working in the back. So just definitely a thought to keep in mind.
I would just like to point out, for the sake of accuracy, that the Latinx community aren't the only undocumented individuals in the US, and they're not the only ones struggling with residency, citizenship, etc. But for the sake of our identities, we are focusing mostly on the Latinx population, but it is inaccurate that only Mexicans or only Salvadorians or only Hondurans are here undocumented.
Yes, Sam, definitely. Thank you for bringing that up. I knew that I was missing something in the slides, and it was actually the information on DACA, but from many of your names, I can recall I've, mentioned DACA to you before, or you've been present at some of the trainings that I've held on campus or virtual. So I know you know a little bit about it, but DACA was is, because it's still on, an executive order passed in 2012 by President Barack Obama back then. It allowed people, mainly students or just individuals who were brought to the US before the age of 16 to apply for some sort of deportation relief. Personally, I'm now more open about talking about myself having DACA because I think, and I keep learning through the years, that if I don't share my story, people aren't going to feel comfortable if they're in the same position. So I've learned to be open and vulnerable and sharing that aspect of it all. And that is one of the main reasons why I'm here talking to you all about immigration and undocumented individuals. So I just wanted to put that out there, that this is a topic that I feel very, very passionate about, because of the fact that I myself, although I do have DACA, am still considered undocumented because I'm not a legal resident and I'm not a citizen. So, I'm like they say, not from here nor there, but that is something that I do want to mention. And that's also one of the reasons why I chose this topic of why America is home. And in a little bit, Perla, Sam, and I will share a little bit more in depth why America is home again to us and to our families, and where we've seen ourselves or our families struggle when in terms of America being that home for us. But for now, is there or are there any other comments or questions at the moment from anyone in the audience?
Brenda, I think it would be a little bit helpful for you to expand more on what it means to be a DACA recipient, maybe in your shoes. Talk about the things that you are eligible for and things you're not, in comparison to those of us who are US citizens or residents.
Yep. So that was my thought process going into the stories, which we can go ahead and I can go ahead and start. So I was brought to the US when I was 3 years old, got here in the year 2000, February 2000. Don't ask me how I remember that. But I was brought to the US by my mom. My dad had already traveled and had lived in the US. I'm not sure for how long by that point. But then, he paid to have us brought over. And I grew up an undocumented, so illegal, non-citizen. I don't want to use alien because I hate that word. It's so derogatory and inhumane. But I was completely undocumented up until I was 18 years old. So DACA came out in 2012 when I was around 15, 13. I don't know. I can't do math. But after I got DACA, that's when I realized that there were more opportunities for me. So with DACA, I have a social security number. I am able to get a driver's license to drive around. I'm able to work legally in the US. I'm able to do my taxes legally because I have a social. Um, if I have a full-time job, I'm able to obtain benefits such as healthcare, dental, all that good stuff that, you know, shouldn't be denied to anyone. So those are some of the main things that, as a person with deferred action for childhood arrivals, that's what DACA stands for. I'm able to have. I do pay, you know, my taxes. I do pay for, or out of every paycheck, it gets taken out, Medicare, Social Security, all that good stuff. But I personally won't ever see that money unless someday in the near future, hopefully, I'm very hopeful, we're able to become citizens. So those are some of the things that, you know, I'm able to have, or all of us who have DACA are able to have. It opens up a lot of doors. I know a lot of universities work with students who are undocumented or have DACA in ways that aren't normally, you know, spoken out about. But it's really nice to see and hear about it, because as a person working in higher ed, right? And being that I too was helped when I was in college, it's just nice to be able to see that, you know, universities, colleges, and even some high schools are already starting to help their undocumented student groups. So that's a little bit about the DACA aspect of it all. But my story with being undocumented really starts in high school, 9th grade. I remember being called out by an African-American male student. I would always talk Spanish in my classes with my cousin because we were always in the same classes. And he told me one day, like, you know, stop talking in Spanish. You're not in Mexico. If you're going to talk Spanish, then go back. And, you know, back then I like, I didn't care. I like responded in a negative way. And he was like, are you even like a citizen? Like, blah, blah, blah. And that's when like it hit me, like I hadn't ever really thought about, you know, how I was in the school system, if I was a citizen or not. When I needed to go to the doctor, like we went, I was able to get all my vaccines and everything, but it had never really been something that I actively thought about. Like, you know, everything to me was normal until then. So that's when I started asking questions. And I found out that I was in the school system with, you know, my social being 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. And that's how I knew that, you know, I think deep down inside, I knew that I was undocumented. I just had never really learned what that meant for me until that point. And then obviously with that, when I was around 11, I started working with my mom in the fields, picking up weeds from cotton fields, tobacco fields, all that. I worked up until I left home, which was again when I was 18. It was all Hispanics out there in the 100-degree, 105-degree weather. A couple of times, a couple white individuals and African-American individuals tried it, but they could only make it 1 or 2 days and then they quit. So that's my story, and where being undocumented has really impacted me, and where I get my voice from, where I get the courage to talk about, you know, my story and speak out on why it's important that we learn about, you know, how we can become allies in the end. So I'm gonna stop talking. I'm gonna let uh, Perla Rivera, who's a student here at UW-Platteville and a Latino Student Union co-president, share a little bit about herself, her story, and why America is home to her. And to me, America is home because it's all I know. It's all I've ever known. Like I said, I was 3 years old when I was brought here, and yes, my dad is in Mexico because he was deported in 2008. But if I were to go back to Mexico, it would be, for me, I would just want to go to obviously visit him and visit his side of the family and get to know them, but I wouldn't want to stay. So, Perla, I pass on the mic to you, girlfriend.
Thank you, Brenda. So when this topic was first brought up to me, why is America home to me? And I thought a lot about, because I live here, right? But then I thought about a move that we made. So when I was in second grade, my parents decided we were gonna go back. So fortunate enough, my parents are citizens. My father was born in LA. My mom was born in Mexico. So my father was taken back to Mexico when he was 6, and so that's where he met my mother. But when he turned around 15, 16, he decided to come back. He didn't like, he didn't like being there. So he decided to come back, and I guess you could say they were in love, and she came with him. Eventually got married, and had me. My mother was 18, so I have a pretty young mom. And so when they were here, they struggled. They tell me about the places that we've lived, that I can't remember. But they've told me about all the sacrifices they have made. And when we talk about the memories that I do have and moving back to Mexico, I wasn't welcome by my peers. And it was a tough year for me as well, how old was I? Second grade. Uh, 7, 8 years old. And it was crazy to see that I wasn't accepted because I wasn't Mexican enough. And that was hard because I was raised in what they called El Norte, the north side. And even though I was raised here, I was raised in a Mexican culture, and that's all I knew. So when I went to live there, it was eye-opening for a 7-year-old that, spoke fluent English, couldn't read Spanish, couldn't, you know, do any math in Spanish. Everything, that was explained to me, like I understood it. I was fluent in speaking it and understanding. But when it came to reading it, it was difficult. And I remember my first day, clear as day. I was asked to read out loud, and it was the most embarrassing day of my life. And I just started reading a history book that was in Spanish in English. So I tried to translate these words in English, but nothing made sense. And everybody thought it was the funniest thing ever. So I was not very welcome there. The bullying started, and you always want to hide that. And so when it came time, to come back, my parents saw that, like, that wasn't a good place for me and my brother. They weren't in the greatest places either. Still staying at my grandmother's house, not having their own space like they would here. So we came back, and I felt welcome when I came back. I am originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, south side of Milwaukee to be specific, which is about mostly Hispanics there. It's changed over the years, but I've been in the Hispanic culture my entire life. And so um, coming back, I felt more welcome because there was a lot of students that were more like me, that, could identify with the Mexican culture, yet still being part of the American culture that we have here. And so that's when, I realized, kind of like what Brenda said, I'm not from here, I'm not from there. I love going to Mexico. I love visiting Mexico. I love seeing my family that I am unable to see. And I love being here. And I've always said that I will always go visit when I have the chance, but I will never live there. And I hate hearing why don't you want to live here? Is it because you don't have opportunities? I'm like, I'll have the opportunities there, but I think that I know how to maneuver myself and what I know and what I've learned where I've lived my entire life. And so that is why America is home to me.
Perla, thank you for sharing. Again, everyone, if you have any questions, we'll wait until, all of us have spoken. So Samantha Lopez is an OMSA multicultural advisor. And now I ask you, Sam, to share a little bit about, why America is home to you and your family.
Thank you. So yes, my name is Samantha. I usually go by Sam or Sammy. We are a little bit short on time, so I will try to keep my story a little short. I consider America home because this is where I was born. I am originally from Houston, Texas, but both of my parents are Mexican. They do now have citizenship, but they did not when they came here. Luckily, my mom was able to get her citizenship through, I think there was a reform or amnesty or something that happened in the late 80s that she was able to become a citizen. And my dad got his citizenship after being a resident for, I want to say over 10, maybe 15 years, in 2008. I think one of the most important things to point out is the only difference between myself and maybe Brenda is that I was on this side of the river when I was born and she wasn't. That when it comes to just a piece of paper, right, or a social security number or anything of that nature, that's really the only difference. I think what the one story I will share to kind of put things into perspective for those who may not know, even after people in the Latinx community receive their citizenship, that doesn't stop them from being targeted. That doesn't stop them from being racially profiled by police, by other members of their community. Back in 2012, my dad was actually arrested and put in jail for, I think, 2 days, and they would not release him until he provided proof of citizenship. So in the state of Texas, and I'm sure it's the same across many other states in the US, in order to have a commercial driver's license, you have to have proof of citizenship or long-term residency. So that's the driver's license that he presented when he was pulled over. Obviously, it was his photo. There are ways to verify that the driver's license is real. He was still taken in. And I remember that day, I was in high school then. I remember that day, my mom and I had to go to different buildings, different places in Houston. I can't remember if it was both the IRS to get tax proof, tax statement proof, and then we also had to go to immigration to get additional proof that he was a citizen before he was released. He wasn't even charged with anything. He said that originally they pulled him over for driving under the influence, so they were trying to get him a DUI. But what happened was He was in a neighborhood that is predominantly white in the north end of Houston. So it's considered Montgomery County, which is basically the rich area. And he slowed down because he noticed that a woman was pulled over and there were two male cops kind of, I guess, manhandling her. And he slowed down to kind of see what was going on, see if he could help it anyway. And when they noticed that he had slowed down, they immediately pulled him over. I will never forget that day. I remember just crying and like not understanding, like, well, if he's not charged with anything, why won't they let him out? And I remember just going with my mom to all these different buildings and translating for her too, right? So like I'm the middle person here and going into these official buildings and saying like, well, we need proof of this, this, and that. And part of me was scared, like, do I have to have proof that I'm a citizen to go into these buildings too? Like, it was scary. It was a really scary day. And once we provided like all that paperwork, they finally released him. But I just couldn't believe it. Like, how is that legal? Like, how are you detaining somebody when you're not an immigration center or there was like no essential crime committed because you need proof of citizenship? So I think all that to say, like, citizenship is the goal for our DACA recipients, but unfortunately the battle doesn't stop there because we do know that a lot of people in this country, unfortunately, do not accept, do not like, do not want Latinx people here. And I think it's just a reality that a lot of us just deal with and kind of accept to an extent. I would say that I just grew up in a household where my parents repeatedly told me, be grateful for what you have. We didn't have this growing up. Take advantage of the educational system, take advantage of learning English and being bilingual, like take advantage of this, this, and that. And it took me years to realize that they were saying that because these were opportunities that they didn't have. You know, I'm a first generation student, so first to go to college, like applying for FAFSA and understanding student loans and understanding credit cards and like all that stuff, right? It came at a price of learning on my own and making my own mistakes because all they knew was to work, make sure your mortgage is paid, make sure there's food on the table, make sure this is, that there were no conversations about, I guess, what the American life is and what that means. So I think that's what I would share for my story. I know we're over time already, and like we said, if you have to go, but if there are any questions related to either of our stories or any of our stories, please feel free to ask. I am not shy. I would say neither is Perla or Brenda. Or if you ever would just wanted to hang out and have a private conversation with us, I think we'd pretty much be open to that as well.
Yes, I second what Sam just said. Again, I would like to thank all of you that are still here. I know a lot of us have other compromises and stuff like that. But thanks to all of you who are still here, who stayed. Now I'm gonna open up the floor for questions, comments, concerns, lingering questions, things that you're still confused about, whatever the case may be. And we'll go ahead and try to answer some of those, and then we'll be done.
Just as a reminder for folks, if you don't want to verbally ask something, you can always private message one of us, and we'll share your question anonymously without your name. So.
That was a huge sigh of relief.
I think we're done then.
I'd just like to share really quickly with you guys. I too am an immigrant to the United States. I immigrated with my parents from Canada here when I was about 6 years old. And when my family came to this country, my mom did not have the proper visa, but she too was able to find money and find work at a local greenhouse in the south side of Chicago. So again, it's not just the Hispanic and the Latinx communities that come and find work kind of within the ag industry. It's a lot of different immigrants that are able to do that. I was lucky and I was born white, and I don't have that sort of immediate prejudice that other people might have when they're walking down the street. So I'm always unfortunate to hear those experiences of others. I was also really fortunate in being able to get my green card when I was little and being able to maintain that. So it's been really good for me personally. But also in traveling back to my home country, right? I get picked on too for my accent and how I sound. I don't sound Canadian enough. I don't have the accent, right? So I can definitely relate to that too, and going home and not quite feeling right within that culture there too, because you don't just quite fit in anymore. So I definitely relate to the America is home aspect of that as well. So thank you guys so much for sharing your stories.
Thank you, Rebecca, for chiming in. It's definitely good to hear, other stories and have that perspective that isn't, just Hispanic, Latinx. So thank you.
I think it also just goes to show that you really never know who is undocumented, right? If we go by appearances, we assume, and we just, it's a mistake. It's a mistake. And yes, Rebecca, thank you so much for sharing. We'd be surprised at how many people that we probably interact with on a daily are immigrants or their families migrated here, I'm sorry. It's interesting.
So if no one else has any further comments, questions, or concerns, I'm going to stop screen sharing, and that will be the end of my presentation. Again, if any of you have any questions for any of us, I'm sure that Perla, Sam, I'm speaking for all three of us, are open to, discussing whatever private questions any of you have, if you do. Not an open book, but if you ask me, I will answer.
Oh, I'm an open book, so you can ask me anything too.
You sound like a library.
Yes, there it is, Soraya.
Well, thank you all for being here and continuing to engage with the virtual MCIC series. I hope to see you in future sessions, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you for having me.